Ella in the Facebook group asked, and this is the basis of this episode. Ella is a long-term friend of the podcast. She was in my first book, Sort Your Money Out and Get Invested. There's a profile on her investing. She lives in Brisbane. She said in the group, "Hi friends, I'm looking at buying a unit established in Brizzy. Anyone got any general words of wisdom, things they wish they knew about the property before buying, or any red flags to look out for? Thanks, fam." We're going to go deep on Strata. We're going to go deep on things to look out for. Today you are joined by John Pigeon and myself, Glenn James. Let's do a podcast. General words of wisdom. Where would you start with Ella?
Yeah, so I think for the novice out there tuning in, Ella says looking at buying a unit that's established. So what's the alternative? The alternative is buying something that's referred to as off the plan. So it hasn't been built yet. You're buying basically a portion of air, and hopefully the developers are going to build something in that air space that you'll then own up on the 5th floor or 10th floor or whatever it may be. Ella's referring to something that's existing, so it's already there. You can drive past it, touch it, feel it. I think the first part with this is I wouldn't say red flags, but I suppose I've personally got some non-negotiables when it comes to units. And if we step back from the unit component for a minute, we're saying, well, what's Ella's strategy? What does she want to achieve? How much has she got to spend? What does the yield requirement need to be? Because units essentially come with a better yield generally than houses because they have less land component of ownership, which we mentioned before. So they're commonly, the smaller the unit size internally, the better the yield will become or is straight off the bat. So you might buy a unit as an investment or a strategy to get a better cash flow in your life if your income's lower. Or you just might have a negatively geared property elsewhere that you want to buy a unit to offset some of those negative gains. Negative cash flow. But when we're looking at units, and the old story of houses outperform units is on the basis that land goes up in value. So if you've got more of that, generally it goes up in value and performs better than something that hasn't. But it's not always the case because it is dependent on location. If I went and bought 3 acres in Alice Springs, for example, there's no guarantee based on historical performance that it's going to outperform a unit in the middle of Sydney, for example. So we've got to look at supply and demand. So the red flags, first of all, for Ella would be supply and demand. And when we look at real estate around the country right now, we see vacancy rates at an all-time low. So if we're looking at, and you can do this by logging on to sqmresearch.com.au, and you can see any postcode in the country to see what their vacancy rates are like. If you've got vacancies of 3% or more, for example, in Australia right now in a postcode, I would be deeply concerned because for me, it's a very much an undersupplied market. If you look on and see that you've got percentages of 1% or 1.4 or something like that, and it's been trending that way for the last 20 years, give or take, then you see that the uptake on supply has generally been pretty good. So other things to consider when you're looking at units is how many in the complex. So we'll dig deeper into the strata in a moment, but the more we've got in the complex, the more variables we've got. More strata committee members, more personalities, more potential headaches, conflicts, more maybe for sale signs, more for rent signs. We can't guarantee who our neighbours are going to be next to us or under us or above us. Whereas when you've got a house, your neighbours are there, you can't control that either, but they're at least a little way away.
Are you, just so we get our terminology correct, for Ella, she's buying it in Brisbane to live in. And this is where it's the dance, right?
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we want to buy, how's that coffee? Is it all right?
Spot on, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very happy with it. Thank you.
I got an espresso machine in the studio, everyone, and I make people coffees now. Because it is that dance that Ella's in Brisbane. She wants a unit to buy and call hers, sick
Yes.
of renting, all that stuff. Now, at the end of the day, well, find out how much you can borrow and go buy one because you're going to live in it. But it's probably what you're saying. I'm just putting words in your mouth. It's always good to potentially throw some investment property wisdom across your lens because it doesn't.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we don't know personalities and what people want in their life, etc. So Ella might say, well, I want to buy a unit. It's just going to be me for the next 20 years. I'm never going to outgrow it. And I want low upkeep because I'm always traveling or appreciate my lifestyle and I don't have to mow lawns, etc. Knock yourself out. Go and do that and be walking distance to all amenities and public transport and everything and get on with your life. So you've got to look at your own situation, especially when it's owner-occupier. And the biggest question I get from wannabe investors is, okay, if I buy this now, am I going to outgrow it in 5 years' time? So that's not a red flag, but just something to take into account and say, Ella, if we're buying a one-bedroom unit now in a preferred suburb, am I going to outgrow that, i.e. partner, work from home, kids, those sort of things. So we want to make short-term decisions but look at the long-term. And when we're doing that, we can get a clearer lens on our strategy, I suppose. With reference to the size.
Yeah, she said she's after 2 beds, 2 bath ideally, but it's expensive.
Yes. So it's this dance between location and type. Now, if we had unlimited funds, we wouldn't even have to be having this conversation. You could go and have the pick of the bunch. But generally, more bathrooms, more bedrooms, more car spaces, more money.
Is more.
More money. So it's that dance between, okay, I can get a 2, 2 and 1, 2 bed, 2 bath, 1 car, but I'm in a inferior suburb versus going in a suburb to a better location and get a 2, 1 and 1. So for Ella that's going to live in it, which one's going to be better? Can I suck up the inferior location or do I absolutely want to be in a better location but sacrifice a bathroom?
Generally speaking, any of the newer stuff, if they're 2-bedroom, it will be 2-2. It's rare that you would see a 2-bedroom apartment built these days that only has 1 bath. Yes or yes?
Depends.
Yeah.
If the developer wants to build 150 to squeeze in there as opposed to 85 boutique, then different conversation. Yeah, but generally the older apartments, there's a lot of 2, 1 and 1s.
Yeah.
And this brings me to the next point of age of unit. If you had a brand new 2, 2 and 1 next to a very old 2, 2 and 1, you're going to pay a lot more for the newer property because of its condition. Makes sense. You might not have the money to get that 2, 2 and 1, so I can only afford a 2, 2 and 1 that's 40 years, 50 years old. But invariably from an investment wealth creation hat, you've got some add value potential on that versus buying something that's brand new that I can't add value to.
So you can still add value to your apartment if you get an older one by, kitchen, carpet, all that
Cosmetic, yeah. So I'd say to Ella, look, if you've got a portion of wealth creation on your mind, generally I would look at trying to add some value in the purchase.
Okay, so what we might do now is just slip back into some Strata 101 and how the schemes work, and we'll keep this very high level. I've drawn an example, and you can just imagine this in your head. It's not, rocket science. Imagine that there was a Strata unit or a complex, call it, townhouses or units, whatever, and there was 4 dwellings. So 4 apartments, 4 townhouses.
So let's confirm townhouses, units or apartments because they're all different. I don't want to...
Okay, well, let's get our terminology. So a townhouse would be a 2-story...
Generally 2-story.
Would generally have a car spot.
Yeah, and generally on their own title as such.
Oh, so not Strata.
Not Strata.
Oh, my
No.
townhouse at Blue Bay's Strata, so
Okay, so they've...
we'll assume all this is Strata for the sake of this.
Okay, so let's go unit.
Okay.
Let's call them units just
Okay.
for ease.
Okay, so townhouse, from what you're saying, is the old terrace-type houses in the city, and they're in their own title?
Yeah, and they've got their own backyard and generally they're
So
title.
my place at Blue Bay is a unit in your terminology.
If it's part of a strata complex, then it is,
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do strata unit
Yep.
4 or an apartment building
Yes.
of 4, whatever that is. So it's all strata, the whole block. There's 4 units. In the contract that you'll get from the agent and in the the strata kind of bylaws and all the documents that form the strata plan, because there'll be a master strata plan number for that lot, and then each individual unit will have a strata plan number as well. You'll see that they call it like a unit allotment or a unit allocation.
Yep.
And that's based on the usable square meterage that you own. So in this example, if the first 2 units had 25% allotment, they're the biggest 2, then the next one down has a 30% allotment, which is a smaller unit, and then there might be a one better that has a 20% allotment. So everything with the strata and the system, if there is $1,000 maintenance bill that comes in, you pay per allotment. So the first 2 will pay $250 each, and then $30 and $20. So that's really important. It's not there's 4 units divided by 4 ways. There's unit allotments.
Based on your size.
Yeah, and that's how they work out all the levies and contributions for the Capital Works Fund and the Admin Fund. Just on that, when you are new to this world, there will be, most places will not be self-managed. So we'll assume that they're not self-managed, that it's through a company that does strata management, and they're responsible for basically being the key contact with the committee and running the day-to-day admin stuff of the strata complex. That company, on behalf of the strata, because the strata plan will own this, they might set up 2 bank accounts, for example. One of those bank accounts might be the administration fund, and the other might be the Capital Works Fund. So and jump in, John, if I say anything wrong. Basically, what they do is at each AGM, or if it's a new complex, they'll basically work out, okay, over the next 12 months, we need to pay the lawns person, we need general maintenance costs, there's a security fee, there's common area lighting, so there'll be an electricity account owned by the strata committee or the main strata number. So there'll be expenses just, if it's a bit bigger, they may pay for someone to come in once a week and move all the bins out and do all the sweeping and all that. So what they say is year on year, we'll just go, we think it's $10,000 in the next 12 months just for day-to-day admin, including any insurances, because we've got to pay for the whole building to be insured. The fee of the strata manager, so we call that $10,000 over the next 12 months, just running the show. We'll call it 5 to keep this really simple. Yeah.
So you might hear that referred to as a sinking fund.
Yes.
So Capital Works, sinking fund, same.
Yeah. And I it's just a terminology thing. I mean, the strata purists I would think sinking fund is the Capital Works and not the admin fund.
So Capital Works or sinking fund.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. So then what they do is that's the day-to-day, and then what they'll do is, look, over the next 5 years, if it's a new building, or over the next 10, what do we need to allow for? Well, we know that the roof will probably need to be repaired in 10 years. Okay, so we have to factor that in. We know that the driveway needs to be resprayed over the next 5 years. We know that there's a bit of concrete cancer in the basement, and that will need to be repaired. So basically what they work out is two numbers for each unit allotment, the admin function, so the day-to-day, and then the proportionate of a unit allotment for each unit to save up for future capital works. So there could be also, and we'll get to kind of like doing some due diligence, if, for example, something came up, and then strata levies are usually paid to the strata manager quarterly, and that's all good. But if, for example, something came up, there was some emergency maintenance that we just did not foresee. It's not an insurance event. It's just, we forgot that the roof was rusty and it needs to be done next week or whatever. If that cost isn't accounted for in the general capital works sinking fund and saved up for, or if there's no money there for it, the strata committee can actually impose a special levy. Now, that special levy is for that special purpose of replacing this roof. We've got to raise $60,000 over the next 12 months. $60,000 divided by 12 is X amount a month that we need to save, then divided by the unit allotment.
Yeah, and I think this is where a lot of people get alarmed or scared off by strata, is looking at the sinking fund and seeing a low balance.
Yeah.
Or in some cases a high balance. So we this is where we need to spend a lot of time in our due diligence for the Ellas of the world, asking key questions of the history of the building and any potential issues that may have arisen.
So within that, there is, on each strata scheme, there will be what they call a strata committee, which is representatives of owners. Now, you might have an investment property and you don't live there, but you're an owner. You could be on the strata committee. So basically how it works is at the AGM, there'll be a nomination for the strata committee, and it would have the chair. I'm actually chair of the strata committee here at this location where the warehouse and studio is.
Yeah.
I've thought, well, I'm probably here, like, it's so funny. Most of the other units, no one's here during the day. There's guys at the front because they're architects or engineers.
You're a suitable leader.
Well, I'm like, I'm going to be here most of the time more than anyone.
Yeah.
So I may as well be chair. So there's the chair and then committee members. You don't have to be a committee member, but basically what happens is the committee will meet and make decisions of how to appropriate the funds. As an example, we needed something done because it's a new complex here. And this doesn't matter whether it's commercial or residential. The strata thing is exactly the same.
Yeah.
We had to get the number on the front of the unit because it was a new complex and there wasn't a number. And every time anyone wanted to come up, there was confusion. Oh, which one's that? All right. So me as the chair, I said, I'll organise a couple of quotes to get the number put on, get the quotes circulated to the committee members. The committee members approve or decline. If you're not a committee member,
bad luck.
Bad luck. And that will get taken out of the admin fund because it's just, day-on-day maintenance and whatnot. Now, as a person who is an owner or a unit holder, you can go to the monthly meetings, but you really can't. You don't have you can ask questions like I went to one up the road for that property I got up there, and the strata committee was sitting around a table. I think there was 6 of them and the person from the strata company. They had the meeting, and because everyone's a person and normal, they're just like, hey, if you've got any questions for the committee, just put your hand up. So me as a non-committee member but an owner could ask questions and give feedback. So that's kind of how it works. There is a committee. The problems and the risks there are generally you get people on committees like me who are losers with no friggin' idea and cause a lot of annoyance to everyone because they've got nothing better to do. But that's just the nature of Strata. If you don't want to be involved and still own, just make sure each month you're reading the minutes. Maybe go to the AGM and just keep an eye on what's going on. If there's issues with any of the tenants, noise complaints or whatever, or issues like, they keep leaving trash there, it's Unit 5 or whatever, you tell the Strata Committee. They will potentially issue bylaws. So each Strata Committee has what they call bylaws, which are the rules for the complex. And there might be some bespoke rules and bylaws for your complex.
And when you got people involved, as you mentioned, there's variations of strata committees and how they're run and how they've been managed, and it can get pretty loose out there. So that's where the due diligence needs to be done long before we're buying this thing, not after. Yeah.
So that's kind of the 101 on how it works. That's not a comment of I'm never buying in strata or a unit because the strata fees are too expensive. Well, to be honest, they're not really. Like one of the places I have, because everything's kind of calculated, it might only be $100 a week for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit because everything's in check. It only explodes if there's special levies and stuff that's happened and the committee has been asleep at the wheel and not factored in stuff.
And they may be playing catch up, saying, right, we're going to have to contribute more now because we know we've got foreseeables in the future. But also I think a lot of larger complexes come with the bells and whistles, which is great. Gyms, pools, lifts, everything else, right? So they all cost money to maintain and eventually replace.
Yeah, a friend of mine lives, and you know this person, they've got a unit right on Sydney Harbour there near the Toaster. You go to their house and there's an attendant.
Yeah.
Literally 24/7. So it's like this security / that building as part of the strata fees would be paying for that.
Yeah. And when you're a minority in that group, i.e. if there's 80 in the complex and you're one of 80, you don't get to say, right, I think we sack this person and not have someone there. And that's, I suppose, the main difference that you've got to be up for, especially when you're living in it.
Yeah. And then at the strata committee level, there'll be certain things that need a majority vote of over 75%, or depending on what the strata documents say. If you want to add a special levy, because even here at the studio, we had to put a gate on because when it was purchased, like there was no gate because we got this new.
Yeah.
We had to have a meeting to approve a special levy. 75% of the committee had to basically approve it.
Yeah.
Where there can be other matters where a basic majority has to approve it. So over 50% of different issues.
Which is fair.
Hey, it's Glenn here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money, Money, Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.